So today we're going to talk about standard algorithm for division. So I'm going to add in the date. Today is the 4th. Okay, and that's MBT 6. And this is going to be page 8 or 19, excuse me, for me. Alright, go ahead and turn to that page. So division, standard algorithm. So when I think about standard algorithm, we know standard algorithm for multiplication. It's like the old way or the way that probably most of your parents learned it. So we're going to talk about division or long division. You might have heard it called long division before. That's the same thing as standard algorithm. So there's we're going to talk about a family that we need to remember in order how to do standard algorithm. And those family members consist of, we're going to think about a dad. We're going to think about a mom. We're going to think about sister. We're going to think about brother. We're going to think about rover. Okay. So dad stands for divide. That's the first step. Okay. The M in mom stands for multiply. The S in sister stands for subtract. The B in brother stands for bring down. And the R in rover stands for remainder. Now, we have to include all of these family members when we divide. We can't leave out any of these family members as we're in the process of long division. So we're going to get started with an example problem, and we're going to use these little reminders to help us. Okay, we're going to divide 5,052 divided by 34. Okay, so in order to set it up with long division or standard algorithm, okay, I have to put my divisor on the outside, just like I do for area models. And I have to put my dividend inside the house. Instead of drawing a full box, I'm going to draw like a little, like a sideways L somewhat. Little part here and a longer part here. So I'm going to write 5,052. Now I'm trying to, my first family member is dad, or to divide. So I'm trying to divide 34 into 5,052. How many times will 34 fit inside of the number 5,052? Well, that's a really big number to consider, so I'm going to go place value by place value. First, I'm going to think, how many times will 34 fit into 5? Well, it won't, because 5 is too small. How many times will 34 fit into 50? Okay, and since I have that covered there, I'm going to come over here and cover it with my other hand. Since I have that covered there, I know 34 will fit into 50 one time, because if I do 2 groups of 34, that's going to be more than 50. So I've divided right now. 50 divided by 34 gave me that 1, because I'm moving over it by digits. So I included dad. Now mom, I have to multiply. 34 times 1. Okay? 34 times 1 is 34. Okay? And sister, I have to subtract. So that 34 times 1 gave me 34 from this step. Now I'm going to subtract 34 from my 50. Notice I didn't write 34 over here. I wrote it under my 50. So it's really important to just try to cover up those place values so you know exactly where you're subtracting from. Okay? So when I subtract, this gets turned into a 10, this gets turned into a 4. 10 minus 4 is 6, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So I have 16. Okay? So I subtracted. Now I have to include brother. I have to bring down my next number. My next number is 5. Okay? So now I need to decide how many times will 34 go into 165. I don't do Rover. Rover stays, he stays through the whole process and waits to the very end. So I'm back at Dad again. I'm dividing again. How many times will 34 go into 165? Well, I have to think, what number could I multiply 34 by to get close to 165? I know that 30 is a close number to 34, and if I count by 30s, I get 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, and then 180. So I know that 150 is kind of close, so I can take 34 and multiply it by 5 to see if I get close to 165. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 2 more is 17. I got 170, so that's too much. So it must mean that I need to do 34 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 1 more is 13. Okay, so I got 136. So I'm going to look right above my arrow that I drew down, and I'm going to write the number 4, because 34 will go into 165 4 times without going over. So now I need to move to Mom. I need to multiply. 34 times 4, I figured that out already, it's 136. So now I move to Sister, and I subtract 136. Okay, 15 minus 6 is 9. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so I've subtracted. Now I've got to move to brother and bring down. I'm going to bring down this last 2 that I have. So I'm going to think 34 into 292. How many times will it fit into 292? Going back to Dad and dividing. Well, I know 34 times 5 was 170, so it's going to be bigger than 5. It's going to be probably much bigger than 5. So I'm going to try 34 times 8 and see what I get. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 3 more is 27. So I got 272. And that's pretty close. I can't add another group of 34 and multiply 34 times 9 and still stay under this number right here. So I'm